the Brewing Thoughts podcast with Stubblety-Cook.
Welcome back to Brewing Thoughts, where ambition meets authenticity. And today we have a really special guest, Darcy, one half of Bloody Brilliant Beers, and a good friend of mine, and someone who's, kind of stumbled into podcasting and now does it full time. It's a pretty epic story. So I wanted to welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. Excited to be here. Very excited. Don't normally get to have these sorts of discussions and talk about, the business side of things, I guess. Which is something that excites me. So I'm very excited. And the coffees on offer have been very top tier thus far. I can't even remember what this one was we just had, but I'm going to buy some of that on the way home, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the trip down to the Gold Coast. It hasn't really delivered on the
weather
today.
It's because I'm here. Every time I come up or down the coast, this happens. So, that I should have warned you about that. But, it's stoked to be here.
Yeah, so I want to start from the beginning. Like, you started out reviewing craft beers on Facebook, as the tagline is, and now you're a full-time podcaster. You've moved into producing. You've also got a jewelry business on the side.
Yep.
Like, there's a bit to unpack there.
Yeah, a few moving parts.
So talk me through like the very beginning. Like, you started out reviewing things. Did you ever think it was just going to become this, or?
It's probably not. I never thought it would be what it is in its current form, because it's very different sort of to where we started, which I'm sure we'll get into a bit later, like what we actually do. But I always wanted it to be like my job, and I thought it would look very different, as I said, to what it looks like now. But it is one of those things. It's like, even though you have this vision of it being your job, and obviously wanting to get to that level, never really fully believed it. When starting, it's like, holy dooly, if we could do that as our job, that'd be crazy. So yeah, always sort of had it as the goal to be work, if you could call it that. But never thought we'd be doing the sorts of things that we're doing now. So it's been pretty crazy.
I mean, like, for those listening who haven't listened to Bloody Brilliant Beers, you like have up to about 120,000 downloads, which is like, kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
You guys kind of dribbling about being on the piss or the call show. But how does that feel, first of all? Because you talk about like you wanted it to be your job, but now you're like, you never thought it, probably believed it happened. Is it like a little bit of imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think so for sure. And we've sort of spoken about this in parts before, you and I, obviously off camera. But I think the thing with that is, although we definitely had periods where things sort of took off and we saw lots of growth really quickly, we've been going since 2019, the end of 2019 we started. So it definitely hasn't been like an overnight thing, and things sort of happen in little steps. Like, we didn't just wake up and have 120K in a month. We sort of built it up to there, which I think is the reason why it still sort of feels weird, because there is no big jump, if that makes sense. And things just happen. Like, it's my job now, and it just makes sense that I would drive down the coast and have a strawberry coffee and do a podcast talking about reviewing craft beers. But that makes sense on I don't even know what day it is, Friday, I think, for that to happen. But if you had have told me that at the start, that's what would have been happening, I would have been like, that's crazy. There's definitely like a bit of that about it, and it definitely feels weird, but it also feels normal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's not strange. Like, there's very few things that we do now where I'm like, wow, that was a weird day or like a crazy day. It's not until you sort of step back and then look at everything we've done as a whole to be like, wow, I can't believe this is where we've ended up after everything that's happened.
Yeah. Is it like, I guess, like, to give people more context, your background, you started in OP, occupational therapy, and then moved into a marketing degree.
Yep.
And then do you think that was the foundation of like wanting to do something in this space?
Yeah, sort of. I think, I don't even know if I've ever really properly told like the story of why and how I properly started. Like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at school, after school. Sort of was just like, obviously at uni. Did OT, didn't get into it after school, so I did a year of something else to get in, and then did it for a year and a half, and like, wasn't really for me. So then I was like, I'll just do something a bit more broad till I can figure out what I want to do. And even then, didn't really know I was going to do marketing. I sort of did all of my core subjects in the first year, or I can't even remember how it is broken down now, but got a bit of a taste for everything. And I was like, yeah, I think marketing was the one for me. Like I was quite, like not quite good, it's probably not the right word, but at school I did, you know, maths B, maths C, physics. So
you're not stupid.
Yeah, the maths side of things sort of was where my strengths lie, I think. But I also figured out that I really enjoyed thinking creatively. Like my favorite thing about maths was always the problem solving stuff, where you take something and apply it to figure out the answer. So I found marketing was essentially sort of like problem solving. Like if you think about any form of marketing, the problem is the business is not selling enough or not as well known as it needs to be. So how do we solve that problem? And bringing those ideas to life, that was like, okay, I think that would be what I would enjoy. But yeah, I sort of did so many random things throughout high school and uni and stuff. Like my friend and I ran a burger review page back in the day, the Burger Boys. And literally like all we wanted to do was get free burgers. This one we were like 16, 17. All we wanted to do was get free burgers, and we did. We were like, this is the best thing ever. And then started going out heaps when I was at uni, and like was like, how can I, we were just talking about before how expensive, you know, going out and everything was. Like, how can I make this cheaper? Started promoting for clubs, getting free drinks. And then I was like, I'd love to get into DJing. Like I love music. So then I was like, how can I get into that? Ended up throwing my own events with my mate, the same guy from the burger page. And same thing. I remember we got paid like $1,000 cash for doing this event when we were both at uni. And we walked out, we're like, we are the kings. Like, $500 each, we've made it. And it was like 8 weeks lead up to this event. And afterwards I was like, dude, this can never be our job. Like we've made half a week's wage in 8 weeks worth of work. But
it was fun along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And then sort of I got to my last year of uni, and I was pretty like not the greatest studier. Always got through, but like fours open doors for me. Just like passing everything.
Please
assignments.
Yeah,
exactly. Assignments were done the day of or the night before. Like never very studious. And having a business degree, I was like, I'm probably going to have to do something to be able to get a job here, because so many people have the degree, and my GPA I think was like 4.7 something, so nothing outstanding. So I basically just reached out to anyone who I knew that worked in marketing, and asked to work for free, and did a few internships, one at Suncorp, like Suncorp Bank in the head office. I worked for YP Threads, which were like a Brizzy-based clothing company. They sold like party shirts and matching boardies and stuff. And then U Foods, I worked there, had an 8-week internship in the marketing team there. And basically I was like, I'm just going to get in everywhere I go and just work as hard as I can so that they offer me a job after. And YP and U Foods both offered me a job. So my last 6 months of uni, I was doing 2 days a week at YP and 4 at U Foods. So 6 days a week. It was actually hectic as. And then DJing on Saturday night, sleeping in all day Sunday, and working again the next day. But anyway, finished uni, and then U Foods offered me a full-time gig, and I was like, yeah, beauty. And I loved it. Like, it was so fun. U Foods was like, and still is, like a very fun and exciting brand. And I think especially in Brizzy, there's not a lot of sort of big businesses that are based up there. So to get a corporate marketing role in a business of that size who were doing crazy stuff. Like I remember when I started, they were doing a Taste of the World's campaign where they had the winter menu was like week 1 was Japanese and week 2 was Italian, and they brought out new meals every week. And if you bought a meal and took a photo with it or something, you could literally win a trip overseas. And I'm this like uni student going, this is the craziest stuff ever. So I loved it. And I sort of just took the same mantra, like I'll just work hard and pour everything into it and try and be the most valuable person in the team. And I did that for, like 11 months. And then one day rocked up to work and got made redundant. And Rach and I, my partner, had a like 5-week Europe trip planned 2 weeks later. Bit of a sidetrack, but a funny story. I had this beat up Hyundai Getz. The engine mounts were gone. So it was like shakes every time you drove it. Speakers didn't work. Aircon didn't work. And I was saving up to buy a new car and got made redundant. And I was like, I'll just keep my car cash. I'll spend it on the holiday because I obviously don't have a job. When I come back, I'll just keep driving the Getz until I get a new job or whatever. Yeah. And then got made redundant on Monday, and then on Friday, there was like mass redundancy and everyone was getting together for beers. And I was still living at home with mum and my brothers, and I asked my brother if he could give me a lift into the going away beers, and he dropped me off, and 20 minutes later rang me back. He's like, I just wrote your car off. And at the time, he wasn't like a registered driver of the car, so didn't think I was going to get any insurance money for it, but I was like, whatever. So I essentially went to Europe with no cash. Cash I'd save it for the car, but no car and no job to return to. And my manager at UFIDS at the time was like, use this to figure out like exactly what you want to do. Like, there's so much opportunity out there. Like, find a brand or a company that you align with that excites you, blah, blah. And I was like, yep, love that. And when I was in Europe, I was in Positano on a boat for the day. And I was sitting there thinking, like, what is that for me? Like, if I could do something every day, what would it be? And my first thought was like this. If I could sit on a boat in Positano every day, that'd be pretty good. But then I was like, okay, hang on. That's probably not that realistic. But I realized, I was like, how can I have a job where if I want to jump on a plane and go to Positano, I don't have to put in leave, or I don't have to wait till that project's over. Like, I want to be able to have the freedom to do whatever I want, basically whenever I want, and realize that meant essentially working for myself and being able to work remote. So my parents, which we probably touched on this a bit later, but my parents used to run a jewelry business full time. And when I came home, I was like, I got another job, another marketing job. I was like, I need something to pay the bills and buy myself a new car and stuff. But my original plan was to set the jewelry business up, and I started posting on Instagram and things like that. Got a few leads and stuff. But then my good mate Clutzy, who I run the podcast with now, he used to work in hospo and was sending me Snapchats of him reviewing all the craft beers that they had on tap at the burger place he worked at. And they were hilarious. Like, he was just taking the piss out of the beers and the people who normally would review those sorts of beers.
Because it's also in the time where craft beers were like, you know, getting a little fringe.
Big
they
time.
were getting very experimental early on. And
we were like two blokes who just drank golds, like lagers. So to go and buy a $30 4-pack of some fruity thing was like never on the cards.
Some sour beer.
Yeah, exactly. And then one day I went to the bottler and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try one of these beers Clutzy talked about. And I looked at the fridge and I couldn't remember any of them. So I messaged him. I was like, dude, we should start a Facebook group where you can post your videos so we have a catalogue. And so we made it, and we invited like 2 other mates. And then we made it so friends could invite friends. And everyone just like, it was like the highlight of the week was going to BWS or Dan Murphy's or whatever and finding a beer you hadn't had yet and putting a video up. And people used to get into character and dress up, and like, it was hilarious. And it just blew up. I remember sitting at work one day in my old job and like refreshing the Facebook group, and it was jumping up by like hundreds of people every time I refreshed it. It was mental. And I just remember saying to Clutzy, I was like, dude, there's something here. Like, there's probably more to this than just this group. And at the time I was consuming content where people were like, you know, you need to start a podcast, you need to start vlogging. It's sort of the way that businesses are marketing themselves. So I said to Clutzy, I was like, let's start a podcast. Like, let's sit down and talk about this stuff. And originally we were going to interview brewers and go out to breweries, film vlogs and do all that stuff, which we did like 2 or 3 episodes. I'm trying to think how many we did now. Back in the day, they're so bad as well, but they're still up there.
Can find them.
Dude, the first episode in our feed, I think we've done over 600 episodes now. First episode in our feed is filmed on my mum's back veranda, and we both had laptops with Apple headphones recording straight into the laptops. And I don't think the audio's even lined up like in sync. So it's shocking.
So listen to it, don't watch it.
Yeah. Well, go back and listen to it. It's just purely for comedic value. But yeah, we did that. And then COVID hit. So none of these breweries really wanted anything to do with this because they were all just trying to keep the lights on, which is so fair. And we didn't post anything for like 6 weeks. And I said to Klutz one day, I was like, dude, we need to do something. I don't know what it is, but we like can't just be not posting. So
capturing some attention when everyone's looking for something.
Exactly. So, and we were both sitting at home, like everyone's on lockdown, so we had nothing to do. So we started going to the bottle shop separately once a week, buying beers and getting on Zoom and just like talking shit for an hour, and it sort of took off from there. So that's sort of how it evolved into what it is now. Like, we don't really review craft beer anymore, but yeah, it sort of all links back to beers in one way or another.
Yeah. So now, like, you're both full-time. So you went full-time first.
Yep.
And that was like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, it must have been... it was when the footy season started, so like March, and this would have been my 3rd full footy season by the time it ends, if that makes sense. So I guess
2.5 years.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And Klutz about a year.
Yeah, he'd be pretty much bang on a year, which is just mental. Like, yeah, it's, as I sort of said at the start, it was a gradual build up, but once we started sort of capturing a bit of an audience, yeah, we had brands reaching out and wanting to do work with us, and yeah, there was definitely some moments throughout it where it was like it breaks your brain a bit, like, well, someone wants to pay us that much money, so like do that, or like we would do a merch drop and be like, what's going on? Yeah. But the funny story about when I quit my job was I worked for a wagering company in their marketing team, and my boss, biggest legend, like he was at my 30th, best on ground. We'll be at the wedding in a few weeks. He's such a legend. He was so supportive of everything we did from the get-go. He loved it. And he was like, as long as it's not interfering with your work, like you're not doing it in work hours, do whatever you want, and just don't work with another wagering like sponsor. Don't let it be a conflict. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, that makes perfect sense. I'm not going to be in the marketing team for one, but then getting paid by another on the side.
And
so
be their marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So someone reached out for Melbourne Cup, and I can't remember exactly how much it was, but they offered us like $2,000 for a 1-minute video or something. And at the time I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And I was like, Clutzy, I'm so sorry that we have to turn this down. Like, but it means I'm losing my job and I need to pay my bills, blah, blah, blah. And Clutzy was always like, mate, that's totally fine. Whatever. And we'd sort of just started talking to this guy who's now our manager. And he was like, you're crazy. And I was like, mate, the one rule I have at work is that I can't do that. Like, and anyway, he basically was talking to this other company and they're like, okay, we'll offer you 5 then. And I was like, it's not about how much it is. Like, the first offer was enough, but it means I'll have to quit my job. So like, it's all well and good to get paid that once, but what am I going to do next week? Yeah. And then our manager was sort of like, well, what's your salary? And I told him, he's like, well, what if they offer you that for a 12-month deal? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'll quit tomorrow. And then like a month later, they offered us the 12-month deal. So we were pretty lucky where we sort of got it to a spot where it was definitely still a bit of a leap of faith, but I also had that security of being like, okay, worst case scenario here, I give this a proper nudge for 12 months and go and get another job. So I was pretty lucky in that regard.
Was that like a weird decision to make when that offer came through to be like, this, yeah, we'll happily pay your salary for 12 months. And you're like, was it confronting in that feeling that you were like, went from going like, oh, this is kind of like fun and hobby to like, oh no, now I have to take this a little bit more seriously and be like, no, this is going to keep the lights on?
Yeah, I think because I, from the get-go, wanted it to be my job, I wouldn't say I took it more seriously, but I think the confronting part was like, because I'm like 30 now, so that would have been, 27. I'm getting married in like 3 weeks, got a house and stuff. So at the time, it's like, shit, like if I do this for 12 months and it falls over and I've just like quit my job, which I loved, by the way. Like I really, really loved my job and I miss working there. I was like, have I shot myself in the foot here? Like that was the gamble for me, right? Like essentially putting my career not even on hold. Like I would say taking a backward step. Not that I was burning bridges.
Side step.
Yeah, like I didn't never burn a bridge. Like I gave a notice period and my boss always knew that that's what I was trying to do. So like it was fine. But obviously it's like, well, how would I progress in 12 months in my job? Where would that lead? I get super, I get leave, I get sick days, I get all that other stuff. Yeah. Whereas now it's like I don't think I've had a day where I haven't done something in 5 years. Like went to the first proper holiday I've had since I've been doing it full time, Bali, last year for a week, and I worked every day in Bali, and it's fine. Like I love it. So it's not like I'm like but it's just like if I don't do something, it doesn't get done. If I don't do the pay run, I don't get paid. If we don't record our episodes, our sponsors won't pay us, so we don't get paid. Like you can't switch off. So I think that was the big thing for me is like, the trade-off, obviously it's an awesome opportunity and what I've always wanted to do, but I also love what I'm doing, and there was that sense of security and progression, like a very clear, I'd eventually step into my manager's job and then his manager's job, and I guess climb the ladder. So I guess for me, that was probably the toughest decision. Like, am I going to back myself here and have a proper crack at this? With the trade-off being, the potential like security and safety of the job that I had. So it wasn't like, I'm going to take it more seriously. It was more daunting behind like what happens in 12 months if, this company doesn't want to renew and we have no sponsors.
Yeah. And I think like I want to rewind a little bit because I feel like you skimmed over that, like you were working 6 days a week promoting on weekends, so really almost working 7.
Yeah.
And then you're like just repeating that for 6 months while still doing full-time uni at the time.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that impacted, obviously you have this entrepreneurial spirit, clearly, like that you wanted to work for yourself, and a lot of people that say they want to work for themselves, I feel like don't realize you do not stop working.
Yeah, yeah.
But on top of that, you love what you do and you found your passion, you found like your niche. But I think like I want to draw back of like, do you think getting those reps in where you were working almost full time for 6 months non-stop, like how has that impacted now?
Yeah, I think definitely like, I don't know, it's hard to say how it's impacted because I guess I don't really know what it would have looked like if I didn't do it, if that makes sense. But definitely like there's been a few moments throughout life, like with everything, where it's like, if I want to take this to the next level, what does it look like? And it's like, well, there's no like two ways about it. You just have to do it. Like, and I think that's probably the thing that I've found with people who say, you know, I want to do this thing or I want to do that thing. Like, you literally just have to do it. And like, you don't have to have the answers in terms of this is my plan and this is exactly how it's going to roll out. Because I almost guarantee for everyone, and even this show, like, this will probably pivot and change. You know what I mean? Just from doing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're always driving towards that goal of whatever it is you're driving towards. But it's very hard to tell
where the road will take you.
Exactly. And I think that has been the big thing for me, where it's just like, as I said before, if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. So like, yeah, like, and I've been so lucky with all my mates and family, and Rach, obviously my partner, and even her family. Like, we lived with her mum and her dad for like 2 years in COVID. We were looking for a rental at the start of COVID. Both got stood down from work, moved in with her parents. Like, oh, we'll be here for, a couple of weeks till we sort this out. And obviously no one knew what COVID was going to be. So I sat in their spare room in their office every night after work for like 2 years working on stuff. So having them and Rach like supporting me through that was massive. But yeah, I think that's always been a big part of it. It's just like, if you actually really want to do it, you sort of just have to do it. As simple as that sounds. Yeah, exactly right. And like, people can be like, oh, I'm tired or I don't have time. It's like, whatever. Like, you either make time or you don't, and you do it or you don't do it.
And you have a crack too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's ultimately like what you're saying as well, is like you're having a crack in the sense that when there is an opportunity, or it appears when there has been an opportunity, you've let that door swing open. Yeah,
exactly. And I think as well, like, people, the other thing I notice, people like, oh, I'm going to go all in, like, I'll quit my job or I'll stop doing this so I can go all in. Like, I think it's good to be able to do that, and it's obviously awesome being full-time on this show, and being able to put like my whole effort into it. I'm definitely putting in more effort than when I was working full-time as well. But there's also ways to do it where you don't have to, be unemployed, and like going all in on something. I think there's other ways around it. Like, I worked full-time for 3 years in a corporate 9-to-5 job doing the podcast when we started. Like, and yeah, there's still ways you can be smart and go about it, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, now you're doing producing, and we'll get into that a bit later, but like, you're also producing other shows and doing a few other bits and bobs as well on the side. And I'm like, you've gone like full circle. You've gone from super busy to podcast full time to now like, okay, I've like kind of found the groove, and now you're going like the other way as well, where you're going, okay, how can I make this better and progress?
I think like going back to me, like, oh, it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, at the next level, like if I sat down and was like, what's it going to look like in 10 years time? The stuff that I was envisioning is like what I was doing day to day, working full time on the podcast, probably wasn't going to get me there. And like, definitely that
wasn't going to get you on the boat in Positano.
Exactly. Like, and the podcast is definitely part of what that looks like. But it's like, okay, if I really, really want this to be like next level, we go again. Like and that's what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm working every night, pretty much every day on all this other stuff. And again, it's awesome, and building it towards it. But it's like, sort of had this realization where it's like thinking about like what I actually want it to look like, and then what I was doing day to day. Like, I was playing golf 2-3 times a week. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if I want to have this big empire, and I want to be able to play golf 3 days a week for the rest of my life, it probably doesn't look like,
playing golf now.
Exactly right. So,
so you're back to getting the reps in.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. As you said, it's sort of a full circle thing, like work towards making it my job. And I've sort of got that flexibility now where I can be anywhere, wherever, within reason, obviously. And now it's like, okay, how do I make sure that I can do this forever? And it's not just like a brief flash in the pan, 2-3 year thing. And that's sort of, I feel like where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like, I want to kind of unpack a little bit more of like BBB to tell people about it. I guess like you can probably give a better rundown, but it's 3 shows a week now. Started as 1 or 2, and then has progressed into 3. Kind of an anti-sports show, a call show, and a kind of catch-up.
Pretty much, So I can't even remember when we like started doing the 3 shows a week and how we split it up. But to be perfectly honest, it was just to make more money, because if you're running ads every week, you get paid per stream. And if you're doing 1 episode a week, say you're getting 10,000 streams a week on 1 episode, if you do 3, you'll get 30,000. So you charge more money. So that's why we did it. And yeah, we have like our little community we've built through the podcast are crazy, and like we're so lucky and supported by them. But we just get smashed with calls. Like I was listening to some of the calls this morning. We're recording the Savo, and there'd be 60 calls a week in there. So and we were doing our podcast just kept getting longer and longer and longer because we're adding all the calls in. And our manager, who I was mentioned before, was sort of like, you should make that its own show. I was like, it's the easiest show for us because we really don't have to plan anything. Like I listen to all the calls and stuff, but we don't have to bring anything to the table. No ideas. It's purely just reacting to the calls off the back of it. And then the sports thing was the same. We sort of that was obviously heavily intertwined with our other show. Like at the end of the day, we say it's the conversations you'd hear from the front bar at your local. It's literally just Clutzy and I having a beer at the pub, and obviously sports like always a big part of that. But same thing, we'd do the catch up and then get into sports, and the show just got longer and longer and longer. It's like, oh, let's split this up and have our 3 shows. But yeah, the anti-sports thing's funny. I think from the get-go, we were pretty staunch on like neither of us have played properly any sport. Like Clutzy still plays social rugby and stuff, but we're not analysts or we can't give insight. And there's so many people who are out there doing that who are way more qualified than us, doing a way better job. So we were like, why would we try and compete in that field? Like we think that the stuff we were talking about around sport was funny in the pub. So that's sort of the angle we've always took. Like we call ourselves sport adjacent, I guess. It's like more the off-field stuff than the actual on-field stuff. But yeah, it's been fun, and as I said, it's nowhere near where we started, but it feels kind of like the natural progression.
Yeah, and I mean, like now you've got those 3 shows, and then you're now producing for Kevy.
Yep.
But I want to probably talk about like you've interviewed Stephen Miles, who was a premier at the time, and Anthony Albanese, like, you know, 2 huge, especially Stephen Miles at the time, like was probably quite a divisive character, being the 32 Olympics and all that conversation that was going on up for re-election. And sadly, like, obviously lost, but...
We cursed him,
say. And then Albanese, like, coming on, like, all of 2 months later is, like, you're talking to, like, the Prime Minister, and, like, I know when I've been in those environments where he's even at a dinner or the Premier's at a dinner, like, you have all the security. Like, I think people don't even realise, like, that was in the background.
Yeah, so the PM thing was so mental. We got an email from someone in his office being like, hey, do you want to catch up for a chat? We want to bring someone on. And we actually got a fair bit of hate for the Miles thing, which I kind of get. Like, we're definitely not a political podcast, and it definitely wasn't a political conversation, but I do understand that essentially those guys are just like using us for our platform to get their name out there, whatever.
Following in America's footsteps.
Yeah, exactly. And like, we knew that going into it, and we were happy to do it. But yeah, a lot of people weren't happy about it, which, like, whatever. If the Premier and the PM reached out to you to have a beer with you and your mate at the pub, like... Anyway, that's beside the point. We got a bit of hate from the Miles thing, and then we got an email being like, oh, we want to have a chat to you about potentially interviewing someone. And in my head, I was like... don't know about this. And Clutzy and I had a chat about it. Like, oh, we'll do the meeting, but unless it's someone big, like, we're probably not keen. And I feel bad. I can't remember his name. They're like, oh, we've got this guy. He's like minister for something. He's a Queenslander, used to play footy. And we're like, and they're like, or we could do Alba. And we're like, okay.
Sorry, that's not a question.
yeah, that's a pretty big dog. But yeah, the security stuff was crazy. So it all happened. They originally hit us up and we're like, yep, let us chat to the team. We basically had to pitch it to them. So we just essentially did like a sponsorship deck. Like, here's our listenership, here's who they are, blah, 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 blah. Sent it through. And they were like, we'll pitch to the team and you'll hear back. Heard nothing. And then Clutzy went to Queenstown for a wedding, a friend of his wedding. And we'd like pre-recorded some shows. He's only gone for a few days, but pre-recorded some shows so we didn't miss an episode. And I got a text being like, hey, do you want to jump on a call today? And I was like, yep, sweet. Jumped on. They're like, yep, we got Albo. He's keen. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And they're like, yeah, next Thursday. And I was like, Clutzy's in New Zealand. Yeah. And they're like, well, it's either then or never. And I was like, oh, okay, let us see what we can do. And we'd had this running joke. I don't know if you've seen it, but for all the listeners as well, 100% Footy, the TV show. It's filmed in Sydney, but Cam Smith's on it. But they dial him in on a TV screen. Yeah, he like sits on a panel. Thank you very much. He sits on a panel. They're all on a panel behind a table, and then there's just literally a TV screen that he sits on, but it's like the right size that he looks like he's there. And we did this bit about how funny it was, blah, blah, blah. So then I was like, this is legit to the PM's office. I was like, we have this running joke, explained it. I'll set it up and send you a clip and see what you think. So we just like did a dummy clip and sent it through. And as I was editing it, I was like, this is so dumb. Like, I'm literally...
This is ridiculous. Sending this to the Prime Minister's
I've got this
office.
TV off the wall, the Caxton, on its side, rested against a bar stool with Clutzy, who then has his laptop sideways, because it was portrait, not landscape, filming on his laptop sideways in Queenstown. And we sent it through. I was like, they're just going to laugh in our face. And they came back like, we love it. Let's do it. And it was like 2 days later. So then the next day... had to ring the CACA and be like, hey, this is happening. Like, yeah, we've just had 7 AFP officers sweep the venue. They had to find like escape routes out the back for him and stuff. And we weren't allowed to tell anyone it was happening because they couldn't know he would be there. And then same thing, I got there morning of, and I had to set everything up, and there was no one in the pub. It wasn't even open. I like snuck in, got upstairs, and I'm sitting in our little office up there, and this guy comes around the corner. He's like, oh, can I help you? And I was like, holy shit, AFP officer. And I was like, oh, morning, but I explained who I was, and he's like, oh, good. Thought someone snuck up. Like, I'd got past him. But there was like 4 or 5 AFP officers there the whole time. They had to like take him out the back way, like do a full briefing with the staff and stuff. It was hectic, like so crazy. But yeah, one of those ones again where everyone asked if I was like nervous about it, and I was so stressed. But I wouldn't say I was nervous for the interview. It was more making sure the technology and stuff was going to work with Clutzy away and all that sort of thing. And it wasn't until after, when he left, I sort of had some lunch and I was like, that was crazy. Like,
I was just going to ask, like, what is the afternoon like after that? You're like, sorry, did that just happen?
Pretty much. Like, he was such a legend. Like, he actually had like 3 or 4 schooners, and then had to go and do like a press conference and stuff after. All he wanted to do was talk about footy and the bunnies. Like, he, even when the cameras weren't rolling, was just having a yarn to us about the footy. But yeah, it was one of those things where it just happened, and I was like running around crazy and got it done. And then when we posted it, that's when it was sort of like so many people were like, oh my God. And like, you know, family, friends were ringing me being like, how did that happen? And blah, blah, blah. And that's when it sort of sunk in. I was like, holy shit, we literally just had the PM. Like, this is my best mate from the age of 13 who we have a beer twice a week in the Caxton and talk shit. And the PM just came on our podcast.
Yeah,
so
that's a pinch yourself moment. Where you're just
it was
like,
pretty
sorry,
wild.
Did that just happen?
As we spoke about earlier, it's one of those points where it's not till you sort of step back and you go, wow, that actually was massive. Because at the time, it's just like what happens and you get it done and it goes out. But yeah, once you sort of look back on it, you're like that dude was literally campaigning to be the leader of the country, and we were part of his campaign. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Whether you like it or not, it was like obviously platforming a little bit, but like it's also just like, you couldn't say no to that kind of moment.
Exactly.
Where you're like, it's epic, and you're like, you kind of just get it done, and then you reflect on it and go, I just interviewed the Prime Minister of Australia. Like.
Literally. And then during the week, last week, he sent us a voice memo to because we asked him, we said the one political thing we asked him, we said the price of schooners is too high, can you help us? He's, I'll see what I can do. And during the week, he got a text message being like, we just got this message from the PM for you. And they sent it through, and it was him being like, boys, we've just frozen the excise on schooners, so the price of schooners won't go up any higher. We're like, bang. Like, we are literally influencing the price of beers at the pub.
Yeah, which is crazy to like even like unpack that. It's like, yeah.
And not that I say we're influencing it. I'm sure that was his plan. Or like, you know, he didn't come on the podcast and go, you know what, I should freeze the excise. Like, it probably wasn't the birth of the idea, but yeah, the fact that we were even like having those sorts of conversations.
Yeah, and still like keeping in touch and like clearly had an influence on him is like, and I think that probably feeds into the show as like unapologetically Australian.
Yeah,
like you feed into that Australian, a little bit of a battler's culture. the tradie culture, and then like I think tied into then the sport and NRL being such a big sport in Australia, and then Klutz having a bit of like union about him as well. Like obviously not AFL boys, but
Yeah.
unapologetically Australian and specifically probably Queensland. I think like it's just an awesome way to connect with people, and I think like something I probably wanted to unpack with BBB, and you've touched on it a few times, is like the community piece. I feel like, I don't know if you realize, but like I think sometimes you guys get calls where you're like, oh, you know, I feel like you might go through the routine, but I do feel like you get calls where you hear it and they're like happy to call because they do it every week, or they're like, it's their thing, like they're part of that community, and like anyone that's part of that community that then is part of the Facebook group, sees the Facebook chat, it's just like constant every day.
It's wild, yeah.
But I feel like a lot of young men, and you talk about transition and not knowing what, I feel like you've almost given that piece something to like listen to aspire to, and like, you know, have a crack. Like how does that feel to like kind of, I know I might be putting you on the spot here, but like reflect a little bit like on, you know, you've talked about some of your mates like with mental health and that kind of piece, but I do feel like that community piece is like something that a lot of people nowadays post COVID kind of let fall apart and then have tried to re-engage with, and I feel like you guys definitely are one that a lot of people can benefit from.
Yeah, I think like we might not have the biggest community in terms of other creators or platforms out there, whatever, but some of the guys in our community, like it's crazy the things that not only they do for us, but like for each other and stuff. Like there's a group of our listeners who will like go to events together, not even our events, like they'll just go to the footy together, whatever. Like they've literally become mates through the podcast, which is crazy. And like it's something that Clutzy and I from the get-go were like pretty like conscious and aware of, I guess. I heard this thing one day, it's like all you need is 100 true fans. And I can't remember the breakdown, but it's like if you want to earn 60 grand a year off your whatever project it is you're working on as like your job, if you have 100 fans who are willing to pay $100, you need to have 6 times a year where they'll spend $100. So it could be merch, live show, whatever. So when I heard it like broken down like that, I was like, oh, I'd spend $100 on, you know, plenty of things like that. It's like, how can we get, all we need is 100 people, how can we get that? And we were so conscious from the start. Anyone who engaged with anything we did, whether it was a podcast or Facebook or whatever, replied to everyone, and obviously happy to like have a chat to people and things like that. And we're definitely not as good as we are now in terms of replying to stuff, but that's probably just because of the sheer volume of DMs and things we get. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like the things, and like we literally, we joked about it at the start. We called it the power of the pod, and it just sort of has always took on like some of the stuff we've done. Like right now, literally today, I'm picking up a plaque for Alfie's table, which is the table that Alfie Langer stood on when he was asking for 6 more songs after the famous Origin win in 2022. We realised that the Story Bridge was the number 1 landmark in Queensland. We're like, that sucks. Power of the pod, let's make it Alfie's table. And then like within an hour, there was like 50 people who, someone had made a Google review thing and 50 people had left a 5-star review for it. Like we literally have a group of people who we can be like, can you please do this? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, we'll just do that.
Yeah.
Which is mental. And yeah, it's pretty cool to see those guys and girls interact with each other and do that sort of stuff, I guess, off the back of our show. And it's obviously grown like a lot further than just our show as well. Like I think they probably all consider the mates, and we consider a lot of the mates that we've met multiple times. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a strange feeling to like,
yeah,
like probably a little bit, yeah, eerie almost, to be like, well, in the beginning you wanted those 100 true fans, and now you've, you know, the golf day had like 300 people that were willing to pay like a couple $100 to come play golf for the day. So like, yeah, how does, like, that's obviously a massive achievement, and like I think it's like partly because you guys are so consistent as well. Like I think consistency is part of your recipe. Like it is 3 shows a week, almost like pretty much the whole year.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've been doing that for 4 years now.
Yeah. I actually don't know if we've ever, like we've probably had shows where we delay them by a day for whatever reason. And literally, like I'm talking even with family emergencies and things like that, like we've never missed a beat. The last 2 Christmases we haven't missed a show. Like we've been very conscious of that consistency piece. But yeah, it's pretty crazy to see some of the stuff that goes on, and even some of the lengths that people will go to do things is just hilarious as well. Like it's so much fun.
Like I think some of the stuff where you have like the guys call up from the UK and be like, I'm coming in April, can I have a beer with you?
Literally,
like,
Or people will be like in Western Australia or outside of Queensland, and they're like, I'm coming to Brisbane literally to go to the Caxton. And the funniest thing that happens all the time. It actually happened on when we were in there on Wednesday. People don't believe that we film at the Caxton, and like we genuinely do, and we're genuinely there 3 or 4 times a week. So people come, they're like, oh my God, I was hoping you were going to be here. I didn't think you'd be here. It's like, no, dude, we are actually here,
live
like,
here
every day. Yeah. It happened on Wednesday. There was a big pub crawl, like all these uni students, and they were losing their mind. They're like, what are you doing here? I was like, dude, my desk is upstairs. Like I work here.
This
like,
is my office.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. It's 2:00 on a Wednesday. Like this is where I am every week. So, that's always a funny part, but it's crazy. Like we had a guy from the States, same thing, just Clutzy and I sitting at our desk. We got this DM. This guy's like, boys, long shot. It's a Tuesday at 2 p.m. I'm over from the States. I was wondering if you're around for a beer this week. I'm like, dude, we're here right now. I just went downstairs and had a beer with him. And he was like losing his mind. I was like, we actually work here.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's just like, that community piece is so cool to see it grow, and like, but also you guys leverage it and like buy in. I feel like sometimes when communities are built, it's sometimes somewhat, I feel like we're seeing it a lot, it's like tokenistic a little bit. And like, but what you guys do is epic. To give and take is awesome. But like I want to kind of move on to now, like we kind of alluded to it earlier, but like you're producing like Kevy's podcast for people that don't know, which is like in itself interviewing Kevy. I know you know Billy, but like like for a guy like Kevy Walters, for them to trust you to produce that, how does that feel like? Yeah,
crazy, dude. And again, like one of those moments where you don't really realize it. Like it's pretty funny. Rach, my partner, all the time says to me like, so much of that stuff, like it's been so much work and it's been stressing me out, but she's like, this is the stuff that 6 months ago, if you were telling me it was your problem, you would have been like, no way is that possible. Like legit, I've never even considered producing for anyone else, like always just done our stuff. And then one day got a message from an old mate from school who was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Like, I've got someone who might be keen. And I was like, oh, not really. Like, 'cause to be honest, I hate editing. Like, I obviously do it. It's a necessary evil. But I don't sit there going, oh, I can't wait to cut this up. Like, sitting in Premiere Pro, chopping, I hate it. Like, so I was like, do I really want to, like, is that, going back to thinking about where I want to be in 10 years, do I want to be sitting in Premiere editing for other people? Probably not. Anyway, had that and I was like, oh, look, not really, mate. And like 2 hours later, another message. A guy I actually met through YP Threads back in the day. Hey, mate, he works at Channel 9. He's a producer. And he's like, would you ever consider producing a podcast for anyone else? I was like, that's so weird. I've literally never had this question before. And you're the second person to ask me today. And he's like, oh, Kevy Walters just rang me and wants to start a show. And I was like, oh, that kind of changes everything. Yeah. Obviously being a footy fan and like a Broncos and Queensland fan. So yeah, turns out it was both people were hitting me up for Kevy. So Kevy had put the feelers out and he wanted someone in Brizzy who could, it's not really a full-time job, but who could be flexible and do sort of hours whenever, which obviously sort of means you need someone who works for themselves. As a full-time capacity. Like you couldn't have a 9 to 5 and do it. So these blokes both thought of me and linked me up with Kevy, and Kevy rang me one day and was, hey mate, he's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Been recommended by these two blokes, and I actually went to school with Bill. He's a year older, but sort of know him through that. And I was like, oh, I actually went to school with your son Billy. He's like, oh, really? But anyway, Kevy and I had coffee and he basically told me what he wanted to do. And he's like, how much would you charge me? And I was like, mate, I don't even know. Like, I've never done this before. Like, I've got no idea. Didn't really know what they wanted to do. And then I was like, let's just go for like a month and I'll figure out how much work it's going to take and
put a bit of a feeler out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, cost it out. And then, sort of a week later was sitting in with Kevy and Dobbo producing their show. And that's sort of evolved. Like at the first I thought it was going to be just purely editing, but now I'm honestly more of like a consultant for them and helping them a lot with their brand deals and stuff. Like the content sort of writes itself. Kev's been there, done it all, and has all the connections with all his old friends that he interviews. Obviously like has a great rugby league mind. So I don't really have to do too much of that stuff. It's more
There's no coaching involved.
Yeah. The thing I probably do the most is like even Dobbo I think is a bit removed from being like a pure fan of the game. He's in the media. He talks to a lot of journos. He gets the breaking news and stuff. And sometimes I have to remind him like, hey, like ask this question. Like this is what someone like me wants to know. So it's just crazy to be able to sit there. And I've filled in for Dobbo a few times and hosted. And people are like I hosted with Kev after Origin. And then was that hard like to prep? And I was like, no, dude. Like I literally sat down with someone who's won 6 premierships, coached Queensland, played for Queensland, is now the Australian coach. I literally just asked him
what I want to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like so, but yeah, it's been pretty crazy. And yeah, it's going really well for the boys. But yeah, it's a weird opportunity. But I think sort of
one of those ones where you were like, it's an opportunity where like an elbow where you're like, oh maybe, but then like when you hear it's Kev, you're like, no, like that's probably the right one.
Exactly. And at the time it was again sort of talking about like where I want to be. I was like, is this going to help me get there? And I was like, at first I was like, probably not. Like, is this really something I want to do? Probably not. But yeah, just was like jump in, have a crack. And again, that's what's been making me work late every night is taking all this extra stuff. And like we've been going for 6 months now. We're just starting to see sponsors and stuff roll in. And it's like, oh, now seeing the bigger picture and where it's gone to. And Kev just got named coach of the Australian team, which is crazy. It's like, yeah, I'm realising that it's probably like a pretty big opportunity. And it's going to look so different to what I thought it's going to look like for me when I first started. I assumed I'd be sitting there editing social clips, which I am doing at the moment, but my grand plan for it is very different than that now. And I'm sure that will change again. But yeah, one of those ones that just sort of fell into my lap, but I dove in and had a crack at.
Yeah, I think like you've alluded to it, but what is the vision? Like,
yeah,
because I think like it's obviously cloudy, and you spoke about like the path is not always, it's kind of winding, and I think that's just necessary in life, and people want to just go A to B, but it's A to Z and sometimes back then to B. So I think like, what is the vision if you can
I still
verbalize it?
I don't really know still, but I think the biggest thing for me that I sort of realized when I had that moment to be like, okay, let's go again and build this up, it's like I'm very bad at, don't want to say delegating, it's not the right word, but like handing things off to other people. I'm very like, not that I'm a perfectionist either, but I just like things done the way that I like them done. And I also, a lot of things like frustrate me with when other people do things. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you know,
you want something done, you want it done right.
And often like right now, which is probably not the best way to look at it, but it's like, why would I get someone else to edit this for me who has a job, who can't get to it till Thursday, when I can just like stay up for an extra hour and do it tonight myself and have it done? But if I took a step back and was like, okay, what does this thing look like if it's 10 times as big as what it is now? And it's not me editing clips on social, and it's not me editing the, thumbnails and writing the descriptions and doing everything I'm doing, which was probably a big realization for me. So now it's sort of thinking about, how do I, instead of build, for example, Kevy's podcast to a level where it makes this much money, it's like, how do I build a team or a system out where I can drive good results for our podcast, for Kev's podcast, for my jewelry business without me having to do everything? And I think this first stage of it has been getting everything to the point where it's making enough money to then delegate and have other people doing those things, so then I can focus on other things. So I still don't really know what it looks like, but it's definitely not just me and Clutzy sitting in the Caxton. And it is Clutzy and I sitting in the Caxton recording, but that's probably
going to stop that.
Yeah, but the way we roll everything out in the back end, I think, is where it changes. And even like, we've started dabbling in a bit of radio. We run Triple M every Friday, which is so much fun. And like thinking about that, like, what does that look like? Do we have our own show there? Like, so making sure that we're providing enough value to those guys in the station so that when the time comes, they offer us that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I still don't really know what it looks like, but I sort of know that it doesn't look like what it looks like now, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, definitely. I think like you're trying to find like what aligns to your values in terms of like, you're clearly a vision of, you want to do what you love.
Yeah.
And that's like key to everything you've spoken about from Kevy's podcast, that you're a big NRL fan and that's why you've taken it on in the initial, and then it's kind of evolved into something where you're like, no, hang on, like I can make this something.
Yep.
And then on top of that, like in the beginning you were like, I just need to get the reps in. You've kind of like come full circle to be like, fuck, it was really fun to play golf 3 times a week, and BBB was sustaining that. And now you're like, okay, well, in 20 years time, when I kind of want to be able to play 3 games of golf a week, you're like, is that going to sustain it?
Yeah, exactly like, right. Yeah,
you've come full circle in that sense. So it definitely makes sense, like that you have been thinking in that bigger picture. And I think people are sometimes daunted by that. Like, is it daunting to you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, even just like we have started working with this young guy Elliot, who's like so hungry and eager to like help us edit. We're filming stuff with him tomorrow, and like even handing some stuff off to him, and it's not like make or break stuff. Like, he sends me everything to sign off before it goes live anyway, so he's not like, he's not going to cancel us or anything like that.
Yeah,
but it still seems a bit weird to me to have someone else do that, if that makes sense. And
it's still a little bit uncomfortable, and
like, why would we pay him to do it when I can just do it? But it's like, well, unless you want to be working 12 hours a day for the rest of your life, like, and spending all your time editing and not on stuff that's properly growing the business and growing the brand, it's a necessary evil. So I think that's probably the biggest daunting thing for me, is like handing off a bit of that, like responsibility, I guess, and workload.
The control of it.
Control. Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, that's probably the daunting part. I don't think like the grand picture of everything is daunting to me. It's more exciting, like thinking about going back to the golf thing, like it was Clutzy and I playing, or even me playing by myself sometimes during the week, and it's sick, but it's also like, who wants to play golf today, to our group chat? And it's like, oh, it's Wednesday, dude, like no one can play golf today. It's like, well, yeah, what's the good of playing golf if you have no one to play golf with? Like, so yeah, I want to make sure that I still do have that freedom for a long time, and this is not just a flash in the pan thing. And I think that's the sort of phase the Clutzy and I are in now, where it's like, how do we make sure there's longevity in this, and it's not just like a little fun thing we did for a little while and I've got to go get a job next year.
Yeah, I guess like if you could surmise that into one piece of advice, and I think we'll wrap on this piece, is like, what would it actually be? Like, it's a hard one to like dial into, but I feel like you've alluded to like a lot of like, get the reps in, stick to your values. Yeah,
I think the big thing for me is, and I don't think everyone's like this, which is totally fine. Like, for me, you see people doing stuff and like crazy stuff, and at the end of the day, it all comes back to cash, right? Like, when I talk about being able to do whatever I want whenever I want, it's having money and security enough to be able to do that. So at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. And you see people who are doing things, even like yourself, like a completely different field, athlete, but you're so far removed from a 9-to-5 job. It's crazy, you know what I mean? And for me, going through school and uni, it was like, that's just what you do. You go to school, you go to uni, you get a job, and you work 9 to 5.
And then you work 9 to 5 till you're 65.
Exactly.
Hopefully have enough money to retire.
But then you see all these people who are swimming or doing podcasts or whatever, they're doing anything. There's so many things you can do. And it's like, how come those people can do that for a job? And like, I'm doing this, something that I don't really want to do. So I think the big thing that I say to people is like, there's so much opportunity out there to do literally whatever you want. Like, you can make money doing so many different things and find a way. And maybe not everyone can swim at the Olympics, but if swimming is their passion, start a swim school, work at a swim school. Like, you know what I mean? There's still so many other ways to be involved in the sport and get paid for it. And for me, I guess that was the trade-off. It's like, yeah, I could have a job and work 9 to 5, and I love my job and still be great, but it's also like, well, there's this opportunity out there. If you actually like apply yourself and work hard, you literally can do whatever you want to do. And I think that's the big one for me, is like, yeah, if you want to do something, go and do it. Like, it's possible. Pretty much anything's possible, and it might not look like a gold medal at the Olympics, but as I said, like, if you want to swim for your job, there's ways to do it.
Yeah, back yourself. Look at like a Ross Edgley is like a perfect
exactly.
example. Like, sure, he's not the fastest guy, but God, he can swim for days.
Exactly,
and finds a way. Or you look at like a Ned in Australia, Ned Brockman. Like, he's not the fastest runner, but he can run a lot. And like, he has a character, he has the charisma to raise that money for a cause, and it's not necessarily like breaking records. Obviously, like attempting them, but like, he's still raised,
Yeah,
$1 million.
he's not winning gold in the marathon at the Olympics, but he's working with Puma and, speaking on stage. Like, there's so many ways to be involved in whatever your passion is and turn it into your job. And I think that's the big thing is, like, don't be afraid to have a crack and apply yourself because, there is heaps of opportunity out there to do whatever you want.
Yeah, back yourself, eh?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it boils down to, is back yourself, essentially.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you coming on and thank you. And where can people find you guys in the Frothies community? And
it's a bloody mouthful. I don't even know why we went with this name, but we did. Bloody Brilliant Beers pretty much everywhere. BBB Frothies is the group on Facebook, but Bloody Brilliant Beers on Instagram and TikTok and all that. YouTube, if you search Bloody Brilliant Beers, we'll come up on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So, get around us and get stuck into some beers and give us a call.
Too easy. Thanks, you.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you.
The Brewing Thoughts Podcast with Stubblety-Cook.